King had been killed. I was driving from Georgetown to Lexington with a friend of mine. I can't remember who it was, but we heard it on the radio, and we actually had to pull over and just let it sink in, because John F. Kennedy had been killed, I guess, in '63, and I don't know what year was Martin Luther King killed. Russell, 68. 68.
Same year as Bobby.
And then Bobby Kennedy, yeah, the same year. So it was just a lot to take. So, and personally in my life, I never can remember feeling. Oh, I'll tell you one other really good experience that I had. And this was, I don't guess I should really say who it is, because in a roundabout way some people, it was a former relative of mine, and this was in 1971, and we were having a conversation. So it was two couples, and the other couple believed that black people were inferior. They really believed that black people were inferior. And we're having this conversation, saying, how can you even feel that way, yada, yada, yada. And the other couple went and got a book and said, look, in this book, it says here, black people have smaller brains than white people. And it was in the book. It was in the book. So there was a time, and that was in 1971, and that sounds like a long time ago to you, but I was, like 24 years old, and I just was astounded that it was actually in print. So,
did you ever have any prejudices before that you had grown out of, honestly?
I wonder about that, Carly. I think I can't remember feeling prejudices, but I know that when I was growing up, there were a lot of people who didn't like Japanese people because of, the war with Japan, and we are of German heritage, and I always felt really uncomfortable with that because of, Hitler and all that. I can't really. I must have, but I don't. I've probably just blocked it out of my mind because I can't. I used to say one of my favorite sayings when I was in college was, the only people I was prejudiced against was prejudiced people, and I did. I still have to fight that, but I can't.
Did you ever, growing up, before your exercise with this one African-American woman, were you just kind of told that you can't be friends with someone of a different skin color? Or did your parents ever prevent you from, because you said you were sheltered, so have you ever had to deal with maybe making a friend and not being able to hang out with them, or seeing that there was a black person over there and you're like, oh, I can't affiliate myself with them because they don't look like me?
No, I was never in that situation. I guess I wasn't curious enough. But I will tell you, the line was drawn. There was never anything said about friends because I really never, the opportunity was not there for me. And I was too naive or whatever to seek it out. But marriage or dating, there was absolutely no question about that. Not only could I not date, or certainly wouldn't marry, and I don't think it was ever spoken, but it was certainly understood, a black person, but not a Catholic either. I was raised Protestant. And my brother, who's 7 years younger than I, married a Catholic, and when they first started dating, that was a pretty big issue, but my parents came along with that. And then I'll also tell you, when my daughter, Hannah, in 1996 got pregnant with Zachary, even then my mother said, oh, that's, she said, I don't really care that much, but what about the child? You have to think about the child. And that was the excuse that the generation before me used. It wasn't so much about you're dating a black person or an Asian person or a Mexican person, but it's think about what the child would be like. What the child would have to go through. Well, of course, we have now in our society we have mixed race children, yourself being one.
Yes, yes.
It's just another culture.
I had one. They were all written down. So you've never like gone to any marches or when Martin Luther King died, how did that affect you?
Unfortunately, it didn't make me go out and do anything. It affected me internally, and it affected the way I looked at people. And I think it really, of course, I had already become affected by just opening myself up to different people. And even at Georgetown, it wasn't a very diverse population. But I knew when Martin Luther King, was murdered, that it confirmed for me that there's some very bad people in the world. And it also reaffirmed my feeling that there should be no difference shown toward people because of their culture or their skin or their, and then of course it grew sexual preference and all that. And another thing, Carly, when I grew up in the Baptist church, and the idea of sending missionaries out was very strong, and I think it still is. When I was growing up, we would collect money to send missionaries to all these countries, most of them in Africa, of course, to convert the natives to Christianity. And I actually supported that and thought that that's, what we should do. And that's a huge change in me. I no longer believe in that. And if anybody comes to my door, or any students, if anybody's selling anything for a church, I ask, well, for anybody really, exactly where the money's going to go. And if it's going to go toward conversion of different people to believe what these people believe, then I won't give money or support that. So that's...
I appreciate that, for sure.
Yeah.
There's been a few times that someone's tried to convince me to... There's some people that judge because I'm not religiously affiliated with anything whatsoever. So, I understand that. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is going to be good.